Hey folks, welcome to a little book tour. I'm going to walk you through the Whispers of the Deep core book, give you a little bit of a, director's commentary, so to speak, of the book, and you can check it out cover to cover. Let's jump into it. Alright, welcome. Let's have a look at the Whispers of the Deep core set. So I'm going to do a little bit of a book tour. This is a nice hardback 6x9 book, and the book actually comes with all of these tokens, which we'll get into that in a second, but let's look through the book first because I think that's much cooler. So as I mentioned, the book's 6x9, nice hardcover book, comes with a book ribbon, and we'll kind of just flip through and I'll give you a little bit of a director's commentary. This one was actually the last piece of artwork that I finished for this project, which is really cool. It's also one of my favorites, which is why I put it at the very beginning of the book. I built kind of the basic scene in Blender first, like the columns and stuff, some random rubble stuff on the ground, and then I kind of just used that as my basic perspective guide, and I painted over that, added the characters, the little frog guy, the delver. This was a lot of fun to make, and it's one of my favorites. So at the beginning of the book, we have all the lore. It goes into the history of Tolkien and how it fell, the king and queen, and things like that. I could have added more lore to the book, but honestly, the game is quite a simple concept that I didn't kind of go too deep with everything. It gives me some space too to over time expand on things. This is one of my favorite pieces of artwork. I really love cutaway art, and I love these types of breakdown, flat lay things. So we got this little fellow guy. Ended up putting this on a shirt actually, which is one of my favorites. These splash arts are really fun. These paintwork by Chromatic Minis is always excellent. The introduction section, what you need to play. I gave a little bit of a breakdown of the terrain types here. These are based on the actual STLs. I just added some pipes and things. Pretty self-explanatory. I went through here, added some basic common game examples. These are some of the most, I guess the most common things you'll do within a game. Concept of what does within mean, line of sight, cover, that kind of stuff. Also gives me a chance to just add more images, which I really like. Unit stats, these are the delving sheets. I used a lot of symbols in this game for the different stats as really good visual call out. This was a fun spread. This is basically the golden rule, is 6 is a success on a simple test. These are the different types of tests, and then it breaks down a combat test, which is opposed. And then what criticals mean. This guy's I don't know, I thought of him some kind of gem seller or something. A piece of splash art. This was one of the earliest pieces I did. This character here actually, no, it was both of them, but there's this one first. This was the very first character I sketched for the game, as sort of this high wizard looking guy, and then the game sort of evolved from there. And then his little friend stealing the Mona Lisa. Rules about how the stashes work, how the stash grids work, rummaging, all of that kind of stuff. It's a pretty key part of the game. Now you go into essentially how a delver is built. This is one of the souls that you can get. The different souls will list. A delver is made up of two things, okay? You pick your soul, and then you pick your vessel. And then all of the stats will come together from those two things. So the soul will give you your brains, your brawn, your stash size, and your max aura. It'll also give you a passive ability. You can choose one of these, and then it'll give you a soul ability, which is what you spend your aura on. And these are kind of these little interesting creatures and souls that sort of inhabit your body. Or they can just be hanging around. I sort of thought of them as almost like little familiars or something. And then these are the different vessels. So the game is miniature agnostic. You can literally use any miniatures for this game, but I did some cool designs, and these sort of match the miniatures. This was one of my favorites. Looming Tower, I think conceptually this looks the coolest. Gilded Mask. The Metal Clad is also a cool one too. Now this is the Fellow Gallery. Now your crew will be made up of a single Delver and a few hired fellows. And in a campaign you can hire more of them. Obviously they have a cost, and there's different types. So we have the Porter, so the guy who steals the Mona Lisa. And I really wanted to have some cool artwork for these. This is a good example of like, I ended without another fellow to put here, so I just did this full kind of splash art for it, which I really like. And I alternate between chapters between having a piece of artwork and a piece of photography. I think. We'll see if I remember correctly. So this is the weapons and gear section. Goes through all your weapon keywords. Those are listed here in this column. And it'll also show your weapon type, and it'll show the token. So it'll give you an idea of how large these tokens are. Now this is important because it corresponds to the actual token sheet here. So you can see that everything has a specific size. Things that are more powerful will be bigger, generally speaking. So we have melee weapons, we have ranged weapons. A weapon entry is kind of broken down like this. It'll tell you what stat you use. So for example, let's take the Janik rifle. So it says it uses your brain stat. It gives you a bonus. So when you make an attack, this is like a 1d8 bonus you get to the roll. It'll tell you the damage, it'll give you your range, it'll tell you noise and special rules. So for example, using this, so firing this gun will create havoc, and it only has 3 ammo. And then your keywords, which are back here on this page right there. And then it'll tell you the value. Pretty self-explanatory. Got some explosives here. This was a fun one. So the gemstone bomb is, the idea is that some of these delvers are so wealthy that they use the gems as shrapnel in their grenades, which I always thought it's kind of almost reminds me of the holy hand grenade from Monty Python a little bit. But items, so these are just like cool things that you can get: mining equipment, a flask, old ropes, ammo container, things like that. And then there's clothing. So these is kind of just give you other types of bonuses. And then armor. I kept clothing and armor separate because down the line I may want to have rules interact with them as different things. If they were all just together, then it kind of, I'm sort of limited to that one choice. But, and then food. Food was a funny thing for me. It's almost like the game riffs on a lot of cozy exploration vibes and stuff, so I thought having food items in the game could be really fun. And again, keeping these separate from items allows me to affect things differently. This is a cool photo. Again, more amazing paintwork from Chromatic. So this goes into how to set up a game, your game phases. This is the dangerous flora. So some scenarios will tell you to roll on this table and then place whatever result. And we have 7 different options, and then entry 8. There's actually a little error here. It says D6 result, should actually say D8. Unfortunately, that snuck through, which is a bummer. These were really fun to draw. Rules-wise, they're very simple. Everything kind of follows the same stats and rule systems. Flora typically is a bit more simplified, though. It's kind of just an element on the table. I was actually inspired by, this is going back in the day, Games Workshop released some like Death World jungle rules. This is way back in like 3rd edition, I think, and there was all these cool like scratch-built dangerous plants that you could put on the table, and I always loved that. So that's kind of a bit of inspiration from my early wargaming days. Escape holes, so these are kind of like these magical stones that you can channel to leave the table. They're placed at the start of the game, and as you go deeper into the game, as the danger level gets higher, they get easier to channel. So at the beginning of the game, you actually can't use them at all, unless you have a special ability or something that would allow you to do so. The action phase, so these are all the different actions in the game. There's movement actions, combat actions, and then special actions. Kind of split them up, and then your soul ability, which is each unit can take 2 actions. Pretty straightforward, so you can move, shoot, that kind of thing. The unique thing about the game is that there's like run and launch and scale. These are kind of like the enhanced versions of like move, jump, and climb, which basically allows you to do that movement with like a bonus to the distance. The game allows you to move around and jump and do all sorts of crazy movement things quite easily, because I really wanted to encourage people to use more complicated tables with layers and things like that. But if you need a bit of extra distance, you can get that. There's things like mine treasure. You can steal items from people. You can make noise if you want. This details some more granular movement rules. Goes into like jumping and climbing and what happens if you fall. Things like turning, small obstacles, movement modifiers, that kind of stuff. And then here's some terrain rules. This goes into detail of like water is kind of an important thing. You'll place sort of sections of water on the table. What happens if you get drenched? It'll spoil your food. And these are black water effects. So this is like the dark, deadly water. Definitely don't want to mess with that. Combat rules. I really like this piece of artwork. I didn't include it as a full thing. It was actually like a full kind of spread of art, and it actually worked out really well here. I love this little dude right there. Combat breakdown. Ranged attack modifiers, melee attack modifiers, cover modifiers, ammo, all of that kind of stuff. Again, very simple. It's opposed rolls for the game, and it's all quite straightforward. Again, rules for throwing weapons, health and death, combat against spirits works. It's a bit more simplified. And then this is the rules for aura. So you basically accrue aura, so you gain aura throughout the game. So for example, +1 aura for killing a lesser spirit, +1 aura for killing a dangerous flora, +2 aura for killing a greater or epic spirit, +1 aura each time the danger tracker enters a new section. Which is pretty cool. And then a little example. And then you spend your aura. You can either bank it in a campaign and spend the aura on other things, or you can use the aura to perform your soul's ability here, which will tell you the aura cost right there. And there's just some nice little spells and stuff that you can do. Then it goes into detail your soul abilities, conditions. Also, kind of a pretty common thing. Different attacks, different weapons will do things. Again, if you played a skirmish game, these are all pretty, pretty conventional, I would say. The only thing is that some of them do have some funny effects. So, for example, pickled. Basically, if you're drunk, you'll use noise when performing a move or a crawl action, which normally you would not cause any noise. Here we have the mining and treasure, which is a very, very common thing in the game. This is the treasure matrix. Basically, this is like a little rolling grid, a D4 by D4, tells you where to place the stuff on your little 2x2 table. When you're placing the treasure at the beginning of the game, you'll basically generate the quality, which is also the target number too. So for example, garbage treasure is an easy get, whereas mystical treasure would be, you'd need an 8 plus to mine that. And then throughout the game, treasure will increase in quality. So each time the danger level increases to a new kind of bracket, the quality will go up. So for example, you know, like a really low treasure can't reach like max quality, but some of the mid-tier stuff will get really good if you stick around for enough rounds. And then we detail all of the different treasure. Now the treasure also has tokens on the sheet too. Comes in here, should be somewhere. Got so many tokens. So that's treasure A. And then the backs of the treasure, it's a bit harder to see on this, but they're tinted a slight green color. So the treasure, some of them will just be, it's worth money, but some of them will actually give you, if you want to use it, will have like an ability or an effect that you can use, which is really cool. But we'll go over the tokens in detail a little bit. I'll just flip through these quickly. Highly prized, mystical. These are all relics from Tulkas's past that are useful to people and valuable. Tulkas was a very rich city full of technology. This is a fun piece of art. This little duck guy here, and then these little weird blob spirits. What's this big skull? Who does this belong to? Who knows? Spirits. This goes through basically the spirit phase, drawing event cards. The event cards are listed in the back of the book, and they correspond to a standard poker deck. And then the spirit entries, so lesser spirits, these are the basic ones. Chain spirits are basic, but when you kill them, they will return. So they're kind of like locked to a specific point in Tulkas. This was a good example of something that grew out of playtesting. We found that it felt a little odd having the lesser spirits just get wiped, and then there was times where, you know, it was like there just wasn't much to do. So we thought the chain spirits are a good way to do that. And then the greater spirit. This is actually based on an existing sculpt we had for a long time, which I'm going to go back and revisit eventually in the future. So the greater spirit's kind of like a big guy. Activating spirits checklist. This is one of those things in a solo co-op experience. There's always going to be edge case things. I always just tell people just to follow their common sense and do the best they can, but I tried to cover everything. This is about escaping. So if you win the scenario, basically you're out, you're good. If you fail the scenario, there's these 3 checklists that you kind of go through. It'll decide on if you guys are safe, if you keep your loot, and if you can get out safely. This is another piece of artwork that I really love. I had so much fun painting all these random plants and leaves and stuff. I love doing that kind of thing. These are the scenarios. I did kind of an example piece of artwork. You absolutely do not need to follow this. This is just a bit of filler and a bit of visual interest. Gives people an idea of sort of what the scenario could look like if you were using the STLs and things like that. Each scenario will go through your setup, the treasure, special rules, and then the win conditions. And then here we'll give you how many rounds. And the scenarios are all kind of different. Inspired by my love of skirmish games. So there'll be some that maybe are a bit more familiar in terms of like their vibe. But again, it's just a lot of fun. This one was cool. This one was a fun scenario to write. We have these little dig machines, which you've got to kind of defend or sabotage. And then this one is kind of just hunting through some rubble for secrets. Another really fun piece of artwork that was really cool to do. I just like coming up with all these odd little characters. It's very, very enjoyable. So this is about kind of the campaign. This was actually written by Matt Burns. He helped me write this. He did a really, really cool job by kind of adding some layers to the game. You can play one-off games. There's nothing wrong with just playing random pickup games with your friends, or you can kind of just use this as a toolbox for different things. But there is a campaign system where, you know, you can grow your crew over time. You can kind of increase the power of your soul, and a lot of other really cool things that you can do. One of the concepts is a home base in the game, which is this page here, which you can get a bunch of home upgrades. This was inspired by the work we did on Luna, where you can get base upgrades, which basically just give you bonuses to the game or during post-game and stuff like that. Again, it's not designed to be, none of this stuff's designed to be really complicated. It's really just like a case of some fun little things, but check out all the loot these people have. Whew, they're rich. This is basically picking your delve level in a campaign. Sort of did this like side view of sort of like sunken city. Goes into rules with attuning items in a campaign. You can essentially find the spirit of attunement or the archivist in a campaign game, and they're kind of able to go into the details of what it costs to attune a piece of treasure, make it more powerful and valuable. These are the attunement tables. This kind of goes through, like if you've got an exceptional treasure, it can become imbued. So twice per game, this unit may reduce damage taken by 1 to a minimum of 1. So it basically makes the treasure more interesting. And then it kind of goes through to like winning a campaign. This is always a really tricky thing to write because some campaigns go forever. Some campaigns people may play like 2 games and they're satisfied. This is something that I feel like most players will probably alter themselves, but I tried to give you some guidelines. And then the event cards at the back. So when you draw an event card, it's quite simple. You'll draw the, let's say you draw a 5 of spades. It'll tell you based on the danger level here what the effect is. And then at the very back, we have the epic spirits. And then the sheets. So that's the Whispers of the Deep core book in a nutshell here. It's good fun. I really had a lot of fun making this book. And I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. I think we kind of nailed the vibe, and I just want to call out big thanks to the folks who helped me playtest, Chromatic for painting the minis, Josh for editing the book, as well as Doug and Connor who helped me do some really in-depth playtesting, and all of our staff here at Blacksite for all of their hard work and dedication of packing orders and shipping things like that really allow books like this to exist. Now, the token sheets, we'll just take a look at these real quick. So how these work is they come in sheets, you just punch them out, you don't need to keep the sheets. We put the reference rules on the back. I had to cut them down in some cases, but you basically have the artwork on the front, and then on the back, you've got your reference. So as you're playing, these are almost like reference cards. And then as part of it, you also get your game tokens too. So you've got your noise tracker, you've got treasure tokens, little action tokens, drains, escape holes, things like that. Makes it pretty much a game altogether. And these come just heat shrunk together like that. So that's Whispers of the Deep. Gave you a little bit of a director's commentary of the book. It is available on Gamefound NOW. It's also available on our website. You can get physical book, PDF, whatever works for you. Thanks for watching.